unarmed, cornered, underestimated, until in one swift move, she became the weapon. The metallic clatter of the M4 carbine hitting the concrete floor echoed through the training facility like a death knell, the sound punctuating weeks of accumulated contempt that had finally found its perfect moment of expression. "Oops," Instructor Phillips called out with theatrical concern as he watched Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos scramble to retrieve the weapon he deliberately knocked from her grip during what was supposed to be routine firearms training. The laughter that erupted from the assembled SEAL candidates was cruel and calculated, designed to reinforce their collective belief that she was fundamentally unsuited for their world of precision violence and tactical excellence. Before we dive into this incredible story, tell us in the comments which country you're watching from today. And if you believe that true warriors are forged in moments when everything seems hopeless, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. We're honored to share these remarkable stories with you. What none of them understood, what their arrogance and institutional blindness had prevented them from recognizing despite a month of daily interaction, was that the woman they had just deliberately disarmed possessed capabilities that made their advanced training look like elementary exercises, and that her previous assignments had required her to neutralize threats using nothing but tactical knowledge and physical skills that exceeded anything they'd encountered in their military careers. The same hands they mocked for losing grip on a training rifle had once been the only thing standing between American hostages and execution, and when an actual armed threat materialized in their facility, they would discover why her service record contained classified sections that made their security clearances look like permission slips. They only knew her as Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos, the Navy medical officer who'd been assigned to provide healthcare support for SEAL Team 3's Advanced Tactical Medicine Training Program at their secure facility near Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. 6 weeks into what should have been routine medical oversight, she had become the unit's unofficial symbol of everything they believed was wrong with military policies forcing elite combat teams to accommodate personnel who clearly lacked the aggressive mindset required for special operations effectiveness. Lieutenant Commander Santos stood exactly 5 feet 6 inches in her regulation combat boots, with dark hair that showed the effects of weeks spent in training environments not designed for her presence, and brown eyes that seemed to process the harsh treatment she received with what appeared to be professional detachment rather than personal hurt. She moved through her assigned medical duties with quiet competence, treating training injuries with skilled healthcare while maintaining the kind of emotional reserve that suggested she understood exactly how unwelcome her presence was among these elite warriors. To Senior Chief Petty Officer Mark Reaper Phillips, who served as the facility's senior firearms instructor and possessed 24 years of special operations experience, including classified missions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other undisclosed locations, Lieutenant Commander Santos represented the kind of administrative liability that compromised unit effectiveness by forcing elite operators to accommodate personnel who fundamentally didn't understand the warrior culture essential for special operations success. Phillips had built his formidable reputation through a combination of tactical innovation, proven combat leadership, and demonstrated ability to train ordinary military personnel in advanced combat techniques that kept them alive in environments where hesitation meant death and precision meant survival. His instruction methods emphasized controlled aggression, tactical discipline, and the kind of mental conditioning that separated special operations personnel from conventional military forces. The medical officer provides adequate routine healthcare delivery, Phillips had mentioned to his assistant instructors during their weekly performance evaluation meeting, but she demonstrates fundamental disconnection from the tactical mindset that makes special operations units effective in hostile environments. Her weapon handling reflects civilian approaches to firearms rather than the combat orientation required for personnel supporting SEAL operations. Staff Sergeant Tommy Rodriguez, who served as Phillips's primary assistant instructor and possessed extensive experience training various military personnel in advanced firearms techniques, offered perspective based on his observations during Lieutenant Commander Santos's weapons training sessions. Senior Chief, some medical officers just approach firearms training with more caution than combat personnel, Rodriguez replied, while reviewing training performance data. But her medical competence consistently exceeds standard requirements. Emergency response procedures are professionally executed. combat medicine knowledge is comprehensive, and her trauma treatment capabilities surpass most military medical personnel we've encountered. Phillips's concerns extended beyond technical medical qualifications to fundamental questions about Lieutenant Commander Santos's psychological suitability for supporting operations where split-second decisions involving weapons could determine mission success and personnel survival. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. Medical technical skills become irrelevant if someone lacks the combat mindset required for tactical environments, Phillips explained while studying individual performance metrics. Lieutenant Commander Santos approaches weapons training like she's handling dangerous medical equipment instead of learning to employ tools that protect American lives and accomplish critical missions. The SEAL candidates participating in the Advanced Tactical Medicine program had developed their collective assessment of Lieutenant Commander Santos based on 6 weeks of observing her interactions with weapons training, tactical exercises, and the aggressive culture that defined their preparation for special operations assignments. Petty Officer Second Class David "Snake" Johnson, whose previous Marine Corps experience included combat deployments where medical personnel had proven essential for mission success, had emerged as the informal voice for candidate concerns about their assigned medical officer's apparent incompatibility with special operations culture. Doc Santos handles medical procedures professionally. Johnson had commented to his fellow candidates during a break between tactical medicine exercises, but she treats weapons like they're contaminated medical waste instead of the tools that keep us alive in combat. Look at her reaction during live fire exercises. She acts like gunfire is a medical emergency instead of controlled tactical application of necessary force. Seaman Marcus "Viper" Williams, whose Navy background included assignments aboard ships where medical personnel regularly participated in weapons training and tactical exercises, offered alternative perspective based on his broader experience with military medical officers in various operational environments. Some medical personnel just focus on healthcare responsibilities without fully integrating with tactical training requirements, Johnson, Williams observed while maintaining his weapon after training exercises. Doesn't necessarily indicate inability to perform effectively when situations require immediate medical intervention under hostile fire conditions. Johnson's assessment reflected prevailing opinion among most candidates in the program. Lieutenant Commander Santos's obvious discomfort with weapons training, her apparent reluctance to embrace the aggressive methodologies that characterized special operations preparation, and her professional distance from the tactical culture suggested fundamental psychological incompatibility with supporting elite military operations. Williams' effective tactical medicine requires understanding that medical and combat responsibilities are integrated rather than separated in special operations, Johnson replied with confidence derived from combat experience. Doc Santos treats tactical training like it's incompatible with medical ethics, instead of recognizing that combat effectiveness protects the people she's supposed to be supporting medically. The incident that would completely transform everyone's understanding occurred during Week 7 of the training program, when Senior Chief Phillips decided to conduct an intensive weapons proficiency evaluation designed to test every aspect of the candidate's firearms handling under realistic stress conditions. The evaluation included systematic testing of marksmanship fundamentals, weapons manipulation under time pressure, malfunction clearance procedures, and tactical shooting scenarios that simulated combat environments where weapons proficiency could determine survival and mission accomplishment. Lieutenant Commander Santos was required to participate in the weapons evaluation to maintain her qualification for supporting tactical operations, despite Phillips's obvious skepticism about her ability to meet the aggressive performance standards that characterized special operations weapons training. This evaluation will demonstrate the difference between personnel who possess the combat mindset required for tactical operations and those who lack the psychological orientation necessary for effective weapons employment, Phillips announced to the assembled candidates and instructor staff. The weapons evaluation was conducted using M4 carbines equipped with standard military optics, with scoring based on accuracy, speed, and tactical proficiency under various stress conditions designed to replicate combat environments where weapons skills determined outcomes. Lieutenant Commander Santos approached the evaluation with the same professional composure she maintained during medical procedures, but her weapons handling continued to reflect the cautious approach that had characterized her entire training experience. During the rapid target engagement portion of the evaluation, Phillips positioned himself close enough to Lieutenant Commander Santos's firing position to provide immediate intervention if her weapons handling became dangerous to other personnel. As Lieutenant Commander Santos prepared to engage targets at various distances, Phillips made a decision that he later claimed was motivated by safety concerns, but appeared to observers as deliberate sabotage designed to demonstrate her unsuitability for tactical operations. Phillips reached out and deliberately knocked the M4 carbine from Lieutenant Commander Santos's grip just as she was acquiring her target, sending the weapon clattering across the concrete floor while announcing his theatrical concern about her weapons handling procedures. The candidate's laughter at Lieutenant Commander Santos's apparent clumsiness was interrupted when the facility's emergency alarm system activated with the urgent tone that indicated genuine danger rather than routine training alerts. Security alert, security alert, the facility's public address system announced with controlled urgency. Armed intruder in Building Alpha. All personnel implement lockdown procedures immediately. Armed subject is considered extremely dangerous and has already engaged security personnel. Remain in defensive positions until security forces provide all clear. Senior Chief Phillips's combat experience activated automatically as he processed the implications of an armed intruder during their weapons training session. The candidates were dispersed throughout the facility with various weapons and equipment, creating potential tactical advantages but also coordination challenges during emergency response. All candidates implement immediate security protocols, Phillips commanded through the facility communication system. Secure all weapons and equipment, establish defensive positions, and maintain communication discipline until we receive tactical updates about threat location and status. Lieutenant Commander Santos had been in the process of retrieving her weapon when the security alert was announced, leaving her effectively unarmed in a facility where an unknown threat was actively engaging security personnel with lethal intent. Standard protocol required her to seek immediate cover and await security force response, but the armed intruder's location within the facility was unknown, creating uncertainty about which areas provided actual safety versus potential exposure to hostile fire. The emergency escalated rapidly when the armed intruder appeared in the main corridor of the training facility, approximately 50 feet from where Lieutenant Commander Santos was positioned near the weapons training area. The hostile individual was clearly agitated, armed with what appeared to be a military-style rifle, and moving erratically through the facility while shouting about grievances against military personnel. Phillips, who was positioned near his instructor station with access to secured weapons, found himself separated from the immediate threat area by equipment and personnel that prevented direct engagement of the armed intruder without risking friendly fire casualties. The armed intruder began advancing toward the area where Lieutenant Commander Santos was positioned, his weapon raised and his behavior indicating immediate intention to engage any military personnel he encountered during his assault on the facility. Lieutenant Commander Santos was effectively trapped between the advancing threat and facility walls, with no immediate access to weapons or cover that would protect her from rifle fire at close range. What occurred in the following 8 seconds would be analyzed, studied, and remembered throughout naval special warfare as a definitive demonstration of capabilities that had been completely misunderstood and underestimated. Lieutenant Commander Santos didn't attempt to flee from the armed threat or seek cover that would have provided temporary protection, but no tactical solution to the immediate danger. Instead, she moved directly toward the armed intruder with speed, precision, and tactical sophistication that transformed her from apparent victim into something far more dangerous than the threat she was engaging. Her approach to the armed subject demonstrated advanced training and techniques specifically designed for neutralizing firearms-equipped opponents under conditions where conventional weapons weren't available or tactically appropriate for engagement. The armed intruder, who had been advancing with his rifle raised and ready to fire, found himself facing someone whose movement patterns and tactical awareness exceeded anything he had anticipated from unarmed opposition. Lieutenant Commander Santos's disarmament technique was executed with flawless precision, a combination of timing, leverage, and anatomical knowledge that used the intruder's weapon position and mental state against him in ways that rendered his firearm advantage completely irrelevant to the engagement outcome. The rifle that had represented lethal threat to everyone in the facility was secured and controlled by Lieutenant Commander Santos within 3 seconds of her initial movement toward the armed subject. The intruder, who had moments before been threatening American military personnel with deadly force, found himself on the concrete floor, controlled by submission techniques that prevented resistance while ensuring he remained conscious and unharmed pending medical evaluation and law enforcement custody transfer. Lieutenant Commander Santos immediately conducted tactical assessment to ensure no additional threats were present, secured the recovered weapon according to safety protocols, and began providing preliminary medical evaluation of the controlled subject to determine if psychiatric or medical intervention was required. Threat neutralized, she reported calmly through the facility communication system. One subject controlled, weapon secured, no personnel injuries. Subject appears to require medical evaluation for possible psychiatric emergency. Request security response for custody transfer and comprehensive medical assessment. The entire engagement had required less than 10 seconds. An armed threat that could have resulted in multiple casualties had been neutralized by someone who moments before had been mocked for losing control of a training weapon. The training facility was completely silent. 15 SEAL candidates, multiple instructors, and support personnel stood frozen, staring at their medical officer who had just demonstrated tactical capabilities that exceeded anything they had witnessed from specialized combat instructors or visiting expert personnel. Senior Chief Phillips was the first to speak when he reached Lieutenant Commander Santos's position, and his voice carried the kind of professional recognition that comes from witnessing exceptional tactical performance under actual threat conditions. Outstanding response, Lieutenant Commander Santos, Phillips said with genuine respect that contrasted completely with the dismissive attitude he had maintained throughout her training. That was threat neutralization at the highest professional level under genuine combat conditions. Johnson approached Lieutenant Commander Santos with obvious amazement and rapidly developing respect for capabilities that had completely contradicted his assessment of her tactical suitability. "Ma'am," Johnson said while observing the secured intruder and recovered weapon, "where did you develop disarmament techniques that could neutralize an armed threat that quickly without conventional weapons or backup support?" Lieutenant Commander Santos was conducting systematic medical assessment of the controlled subject while responding with the same professional composure she employed during routine medical procedures and administrative discussions. Previous assignments required medical personnel to operate in forward-deployed environments where conventional security assets weren't consistently available and medical officers needed capabilities for protecting patients and accomplishing healthcare missions when hostile forces threatened medical operations. She explained while monitoring the subject's vital signs and mental status. Williams asked the question that everyone present was thinking but hadn't yet formulated clearly. "Lieutenant Commander Santos, what kind of medical assignments required advanced tactical training sufficient to disarm armed opponents under combat conditions?" Lieutenant Commander Santos's answer provided insight into military specialties and operational environments that most special operations personnel never encountered despite their extensive experience with classified missions and diverse tactical assignments. Medical officers assigned to certain special operations units sometimes function independently in denied territory where healthcare responsibilities and security requirements become integrated operational functions rather than separated military occupational specialties, she replied while continuing her medical assessment. When medical personnel operate in environments where hostile forces specifically target healthcare assets and personnel, defensive capabilities become essential components of successful medical mission accomplishment. Phillips, whose entire professional assessment of Lieutenant Commander Santos had been transformed by witnessing tactical capabilities that challenged his fundamental assumptions about medical officer training and operational suitability, approached with obvious respect and professional curiosity. "Lieutenant Commander Santos," Phillips said with the recognition that exceptional professional competence demanded, "I need to understand your background and specialized training so we can properly integrate your capabilities into our program development and tactical instruction methodologies." Lieutenant Commander Santos's response revealed specialized military experience that exceeded Phillips's understanding of medical officer career progression and the scope of training available through military professional development systems. Senior Chief Phillips, I served as a medical officer with units conducting operations where medical personnel were required to function as fully integrated team members capable of fulfilling any mission role necessary for operational success and personnel survival, she replied. Medical responsibilities included providing trauma care under hostile fire, but operational requirements also demanded capabilities for reconnaissance, direct action, and independent operation when conventional support assets weren't available or tactically appropriate. Over the following days, Lieutenant Commander Santos's complete background was gradually revealed through official military channels, and her willingness to discuss operational experience that had previously been classified at security levels, preventing detailed explanation to personnel lacking appropriate clearances. She had served with Army Special Forces medical detachments conducting operations in denied territory where medical personnel functioned as snipers, reconnaissance specialists, demolition experts, and close-quarters combat specialists depending on mission requirements and tactical circumstances beyond unit control. Her disarmament training had been conducted at specialized facilities that provided instruction to personnel operating in environments where capture meant execution, conventional weapons weren't available, and survival required capabilities that exceeded standard military training programs and normal operational procedures. The operations I supported required medical personnel who could function effectively in any capacity necessary for mission accomplishment and team survival. Lieutenant Commander Santos explained during comprehensive briefings with Phillips and facility leadership about her background and potential contributions to training effectiveness. Sometimes medical responsibilities meant treating casualties under enemy fire. Sometimes they required serving as the team's primary reconnaissance asset, and sometimes they demanded functioning as the specialist responsible for neutralizing armed threats when tactical situations required immediate response. Her specialized training had included qualification at multiple advanced military schools, weapons proficiency with systems ranging from precision rifles to improvised weapons, and tactical techniques specifically designed for neutralizing armed opponents under conditions where conventional equipment wasn't available or operationally appropriate. The tactical training programs at the facility were significantly enhanced through integration of Lieutenant Commander Santos's specialized knowledge and advanced techniques that exceeded what was available through standard naval special warfare training resources. Her disarmament methods provided instruction and capabilities that enabled personnel to neutralize armed threats regardless of equipment availability, demonstrating principles that enhanced every candidate's tactical effectiveness and survival potential in hostile environments. Johnson, whose initial skepticism about Lieutenant Commander Santos had been completely eliminated through witnessing capabilities that exceeded his combat experience, became one of her most dedicated students and strongest advocates for expanded tactical training integration. Lieutenant Commander Santos demonstrated that exceptional tactical capability often disguises itself behind professional roles that don't reveal the full extent of someone's background and specialized training. Johnson would later explain to new candidates during advanced tactical instruction. The most effective warriors are frequently those who choose healing over harm until circumstances require them to demonstrate capabilities that exceed anything we imagine possible. Williams, whose respect for diverse approaches to military service had been validated in ways that surpassed his previous understanding, found his comprehension of tactical medicine completely transformed through exposure to Lieutenant Commander Santos's integrated approach to healthcare and combat operations. Lieutenant Commander Santos proved that in special operations environments, medical officers aren't simply healthcare providers. They're tactical team members whose specialized capabilities can determine mission success and personnel survival in ways that conventional military thinking never anticipated, Williams observed during program evaluations. Phillips, whose professional assessment of Lieutenant Commander Santos had undergone complete transformation, became one of her strongest supporters for expanded training responsibilities and recognition throughout naval special warfare leadership structures. Lieutenant Commander Santos demonstrated that true tactical expertise often chooses professional humility over dramatic demonstration. Phillips would explain to other special operations instructors, and that exceptional operational capability frequently conceals itself behind routine assignments that don't reveal someone's actual background, specialized training, and potential contributions to tactical effectiveness. The disarmament techniques that Lieutenant Commander Santos taught were eventually adopted throughout naval special warfare training programs, establishing new standards for unarmed combat against armed opponents that enhanced tactical capabilities for special operations personnel worldwide. Her methods prove that superior tactical knowledge and technical precision could enable personnel to neutralize armed threats regardless of equipment availability, providing all operators with survival capabilities they had never believed possible through conventional training approaches. But perhaps Lieutenant Commander Santos's most important contribution was demonstrating that assumptions based on current professional assignments, apparent comfort levels with tactical training, and observable behavior patterns could be completely incorrect, and that true tactical expertise often chooses discretion over display until life-threatening circumstances require immediate practical application. The story of the medical officer who was deliberately disarmed during training and then neutralized an actual armed threat became legendary throughout naval special warfare, shared with new candidates as definitive proof that exceptional tactical capability often conceals itself behind professional medical roles that don't reveal the full scope of operational background and specialized training. The most important lesson from Lieutenant Commander Santos's demonstration, instructors would tell new candidates during tactical training, is that tactical effectiveness is determined by results rather than reputation, and that the people who appear least suited for aggressive combat operations might possess the most advanced tactical skills you'll encounter in military service. Years later, when Lieutenant Commander Santos was promoted to senior leadership positions in Special Operations Medical Command, her legacy continued through tactical training programs that integrated medical knowledge with advanced combat techniques, and through policies preventing discrimination based on assumptions about personnel tactical suitability. Her story reminded everyone in special operations that medical personnel must maintain readiness for integrated tactical responsibilities that far exceed traditional healthcare roles, and that the most effective special operations medical officers are often those whose tactical training rivals or exceeds that of personnel whose primary function involves direct combat operations. The moment when Lieutenant Commander Santos had been deliberately disarmed during training had lasted only seconds, but its impact on naval special warfare training, personnel policies, and tactical effectiveness continued for decades, reminding everyone that exceptional capability often chooses modesty over demonstration until circumstances demand immediate action. The incident that was designed to demonstrate her tactical inadequacy had instead revealed expertise that enhanced the survival capabilities and tactical effectiveness of an entire special operations training program, proving that the most valuable lessons often come from discovering that our assumptions about people's capabilities can be completely wrong. Before we leave you today, here's our question. Have you ever witnessed someone turn apparent disadvantage into decisive victory through skills that no one knew they possessed? Have you encountered situations where people's professional roles concealed capabilities that exceeded everyone's expectations? Tell us in the comments about the moments when you realized that true strength often reveals itself when everything seems lost. And if you believe that the most capable people are often those who let their actions speak instead of their reputation, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. Every story reminds us that exceptional abilities often hide behind humble professional roles, and that the people we underestimate might possess the skills that could save our lives when conventional solutions fail. We'll see you in the next story where we'll discover another incredible tale of hidden expertise and the transformative power of proving your worth when everyone believes they understand your limitations.